You understand? That is very important to know because that is the basis of the motivation in Buddhism. Hello? Okay. So the motivation in Buddhism is based on that. Is based on the innate wish for us not to feel discomfort. In other words, we use the word suffering. We don't want to feel suffering. And whatever we want, it's actually happiness. So when we are moving our bodies and then we find a position that is a little bit better, we say, and we get happiness out of it, right? Unfortunately, that happiness, as we know, doesn't last long because 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour later, we need to move again, right? So that is the innate wish that is underlying all of our activities on our day-to-day lives. We want to be happy. We want to find that happiness. And we want to avoid, we want to eliminate, we want to change from that point of suffering, of discomfort. So, if we think that this is true, if logically thinking, why then did you come here today? What was going on that was making you a little bit discomfortable, uncomfortable? What it is that you're looking, coming to a place, listening to a crazy Brazilian hairy monk talking blah, blah, blah. How this is going to bring you happiness? So that is what we need to do. We need to investigate our motivation. Why are we here? And for that, and as I always say, we need a lot of courage and a lot of honesty. Because normally we are trying to avoid thinking and going and touching what actually is motivating us. We don't want to see it. We prefer the autopilot, you know? We just do things, and yes, we just a little bit uncomfortable. We just find a little solution, and that's it, and we go. But we are getting tired of that little solution, that instant solution, that 5 minutes, you know, pleasure. That is the name that is actually what we call happiness, pleasure, satisfaction. And in my terms, instant pleasure. That's what we are. Insta food, insta date, insta Amazon, everything. That's what we are looking for. But if this was enough, none of you would be here because everything would be okay in your lives, right? You would not need to look for something a little deeper, a little more long term. So that's where we need to start, always. That is the starting point. Acknowledging where we are at and the reason and the motivation, the intention why we are doing everything that we are doing. Very important. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take a few moments to check each of us individually. Why did we decide to come here? What was our motivation? And try to not go so rational because I want to benefit all sentient beings. Some of you that come already here for because I want to benefit all sentient beings. What that means? I want to help others. So many ways you can help others. Why are you here? Why? Ask yourself, investigate. And let's face it, we are all smart people. We can ask ourselves. It's just about how much uncomfortable we can actually deal with, how much we can feel uncomfortable with our own answers. But don't worry, just try. And then with time, we start to get more and more and more tools to help us go through this discomfort. It's hard, discomfort and uncomfortable for me. So let's do that. Let's take a little moment. If we want, you can close your eyes. People online as well. Check for a moment why you're here. Trying to check a little bit more, a little bit deeper, the motivation for being here, your motivation. Sometimes we come with these already made phrases like benefit sentient beings, to stop from suffering, to achieve enlightenment. What that means for you. And try to check if you can see how you are in a way, in a whatever way it might come, that you're trying to avoid discomfort and you are looking for happiness, even though you might not be really aware what happiness means. You're trying to achieve that. Nobody wakes up and says, may I suffer today. Nobody says that. So all our reasons for being here on a relative way might be different because we are different people with different stories, different needs. But the underlying wish to be happy and not suffer, it's exactly the same. And not only us, but everybody else that we know, everybody else in this planet is just wanting the same. Even Trump and Biden, both of them, yes, wanting to be happy and not suffer. So if we think about it, why are we only thinking about our own suffering and our own happiness if everybody around us wants the same? So trying to create a more positive and warm-hearted motivation, we open our hearts and try to include the happiness of others as well by thinking, may I be able to help others to also achieve happiness and absence of suffering. May I be able to help my family, my friends, those around me, and even beyond. Check how how you feel about that, about thinking about others. How does it sit with you? Being happy just by ourselves is not very nice. So we aim to help others as well, to find happiness. So if we take to heart this motivation, whatever we're gonna hear, whatever we're gonna say, whatever we're gonna contemplate, meditate during this session, let's use it to accomplish this aim of bringing happiness for ourselves and others. And in Buddhism, we use what we call aspirational prayers to help us remind and reinforce this motivation. And we do that by taking refuge in the objects that can help us: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Instead of taking refuge in food, in Instagram, Netflix, we take refuge in objects that will help us to find lasting happiness and be free from suffering, so we can help others to achieve the same. So we can start taking refuge. The prayers on the on the screen. Otherwise, it's page. Anyone knows the page? 34. 34 on the yellow golden book. Mm-mm. 34, just 34. No one. Not one. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodan soki chonan la jenju bardu dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso ki pesonam ki drola penche sangye druparisho. And in order to help us open our hearts, we do the four immeasurables. The next page, yes. And we start with the development of equanimity. That's what we were doing before by thinking that we are all the same in wanting to be happy and not suffer. So we do that. We make a prayer to remind us of that. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. All right. With that in mind, we can. Prayers are very important on that because it reminds us. They are like aspirational prayers. They are not by itself the solution. Just praying and not doing much about it doesn't work, right? We can be here saying, oh, may I benefit all sentient beings. And then, first opportunity we have, we lose our temper. And then, sometimes we lose our temper, then we just punch someone, which nowadays is a little bit easier. We have a little bit more control of ourselves, so we don't punch or like shoot someone, even though still happens. But sometimes we are driving, or sometimes someone says something, or someone that we like, someone in our family, and then we just say, beep, a little word that's like to hurt, to really create a bit of suffering, because we want to get out of ours. But the worst is our minds, because we stay with that, right? Again and again and again and again and again and again, like a broken record. That person is like this, that person did that to me, that person did this. Or someone says something and then you say, but I am not like that. Especially if you're accused of something that you didn't do. Best to see how we get triggered and how the mind starts, but I didn't do that. And you become the best lawyer. You start to defend yourself in the best way possible. No, but I didn't do that. I didn't do this, that. And then you come from here, from that. If it is with someone else, you're just like, oh yeah, very bad, right? But with you, wah, sharp as an eagle, right? Just there, thinking about it. That is very interesting to see, right? Very good to see how the mind works. Is what we were saying about the motivation. It's easier to not punch someone, maybe a little bit even easier, a little harder to not say something. And it's even harder to allow our minds to be free from the mental problem. So for that, we start to understand that we need to think about and investigate and, understand our minds. I heard that you did a meditation on the mind for those that were here before me. That's very good. We need to, because nowadays we don't. We give a lot of attention to the body, a lot of attention to our emotions, to our feelings, but not the mind. The mind, the consciousness, everything, not only the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, sensations. That happens what we call the mind. What is? How is it working? That is the main purpose of Buddhism. That's what we actually use. We focus on the mind. What is going on, what is happening, how it works, what it doesn't work, and all of that. The problem is that normally we have a tendency to want only to see the positive thing, right? Normally we'd say, no, don't be negative, be positive. No, think about the positive things. No, don't see it that. But actually, understanding the mind normally, mainly, is understanding the negative aspects of the mind. We have to. We have to sit down and see, understand what is that is preventing us from achieve what we want, that happiness, and what is creating that uncomfortable situation and that feeling of dissatisfaction, constant dissatisfaction. We get something new, it goes and is there, and you're like, oh, I have everything and all of that, and 5 minutes later, gone. I went for my brother's wedding. Beautiful. Everything very beautiful. But let's talk about it in 5 years, 10 years, right? Let's see how it goes. Because now at the moment, it seems so concretely and so uh, permanent, that happiness, right? That's what we create in our mind. We create that idea that is going to be forever and is like this. So that's why sometimes Buddhism can look a bit down, it's like, it's a bit depressing, or, it's a bit negative because it's only talking about suffering and yeah, yes. And Buddhism, as Lama Yeshe used to say, is not a diplomatic philosophy. I'm going to say some things here that you might not like it. And I'm very sorry for that. It's not my intention, but it is also my intention. Unfortunately, to go through discomfort, we need to really, go a little bit in the difficult situations. I have something very bad, but but when I was a kid, we used to play in the mud. And I had always this idea, well, once you step in the mud, open your fingers and enjoy it, you know, make the mess. That's what we are doing with our minds when we are studying Buddhism. We go into the mud, into the muddy part of our minds, and we step on it, and we open our fingers, and at least we have a bit of fun while we are doing it. Because it's not always easy. It's not always easy to go inside and look what is going on in our minds, especially to feel and recognize our negative tendencies. I can only talk about me. Maybe all of you don't have. But I can really realize how sometimes I'm totally, totally controlled by my negative emotions. You know what I mean? Yeah, that moment of like attachment or anger or jealousy or pride, all coming from this mind that is just like, yeah, good. When you start to realize that understanding your mind, and especially the negative aspects of your mind, is a very important aspect to transform it. Because if we don't understand what is the negative aspects of our mind, how they work, what is wrong with them, how they are disturbing our mind, our peace of mind, we cannot change them. It's like, I want to go somewhere. If I don't know where I want to go, I cannot know. And for that, okay, now I know where I want to go. I want to go to New York. Okay, so where am I? I need to know where I am. That's how it is. It's exactly the same. We're starting to look inside of our minds to realize where we are at. And then we're going to see. We're going to start realizing how we are dependent on negative, or we are um, controlled by our negative emotions. How spontaneously anger, attachment, aversion arises. Very important. It's very important that we recognize that we realize how it works. Because they are called in Buddhism disturbing emotions. That's what they are called. And I like this idea, these words. There are many words: afflictive emotions, disturbing emotions, but I like disturbing emotions. Why? Because they disturb our peace of mind. Right? Check. Don't believe in anything I'm saying. When you are angry, how are you doing? Are you breathing calmly? No? You're doing yoga when you're doing anger, no? Or you are, no? And then how is the mind? Are you actually being able to listen to the other person? Are you even paying attention to what the person is saying? Or you just wanting to come across what you want to say? No, because you did that, blah, 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 blah. But they're disturbing our mind. They are negative because of that, because they disturb our peace of mind. And not only this, they make ourselves do actions, because as we were discussing in the beginning, if the intention, if the mind is negative, that means that whatever we're going to say and whatever we're going to do is going to be negative. That is very important, because we start to understand that the negative aspects of our minds are most prominent, or yeah, is that a word? Well, sometimes I understand. I don't know where they come from. You know, they come from nowhere. Prominent means many. No, it means kind of like a lot of that. Or what means prominent? Forefront. Forefront. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yes, that's what I don't know where it comes from. Exactly. From like this. So comes from there. It's the prominent, but that doesn't mean, and that is the other part of Buddhism that is very important. We need to also see that we have good qualities. All of you here, I'm sorry to say, because sometimes you're fighting against that, you are a good person. You are a good person. Even though you might be fighting against it, in your mind, no, I'm bad, I'm this, I'm that, I didn't do that, I'm a bad mother, a bad brother, a bad husband, a bad wife, or the opposite. I'm the king of the world, I'm the queen of the world. That's how it normally goes. Because of our low self-esteem, of understanding and acknowledging of good qualities, we need to inflate them. We need to, no, but I am a good person. Because we don't actually see and observe and accept our good qualities. And to accept our good qualities, we need to understand that right now they are, unfortunately, contaminated by our negative mind. What that means? That means that whatever love, compassion, generosity, patience, kindness, everything that we have, it's holded back by our negative mind, and especially one mind in particular, which is called me, myself, and I. Our selfish, egoistic, self-centered, as we say, mind. So we only have space for ourselves. So that means that our love, our compassion, our kindness, all of it, it's conditional to you're good to me, I'll be good to you. So that's why it's so hard for us to connect with our good qualities, because the way we are interacting with them, it's conditional. We don't believe that we have the possibility of completely eliminate that self-cherishing mind, that me, myself, and I, and love all sentient beings, every single person, in an unconditional way. That's why we have different religions in the world. It comes from that. They come to inspire us to make believe in that. Because if we look, Buddha, Christ, God, all the same. In that case, all the same. They don't want us to be bad people. They don't want us to suffer. No, they want us to be happy. They want us to be like Christ. No, to join ourselves with God, to become a Buddha. Same. But we need to believe and we need to develop it. Because as the Dalai Lama says, just prayer is not going to be enough. We need to act. We need to do something about it. Right? And not just kind of like say, oh, please help me, please, Buddha, help me, and you don't do anything to help yourself. There's a joke, that it says, there's this guy, and then there was a flood, and he was on the top of the on the roof, And then, he says, oh, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. And then comes, a little boat. And some people say, come with us. We're going to know. No, no, no. God's going to save me. God's going to save me. And then there's a helicopter. They say, oh, come, we're going to pick you up. No, no, no. God's going to save me. And then the flood continues. And then he dies. He goes to heaven and say, God, what happened to you? I was there waiting for you. And he said, well, I sent all of this help. You didn't, you didn't do your part of the deal. You know? You were waiting for me to kind of like do what more? What else should I do? If we do that and we use the aspect that we do have those qualities within ourselves and we do have negative tendencies, then we can do something about it. It depends on us. And the good news about the negative tendencies that we have, they are not one with our mind. What that means? That means that exactly like the clouds, they come and go. That is easy to see. Don't believe I'm saying that and then you're like, oh yes, he's like that. No, why? Why is like that? Check. How we check that? How did you wake up this morning? And how you're feeling now? Is it the same? Is it? Do you wake up and go to sleep in the same mood, the same thoughts, the same ideas, the same feelings, the same emotion? No, right? We are like yo-yo mind, roller coaster mind, right? We go. If we are lucky enough, then at the end of the day, yes, we ended up a little bit better. Or we wake up very well, and then in the evening, what a day. So that shows that the negative tendencies and even the contaminated positive qualities, they are not one with our mind. So that means we can transform them and we can go what we call beyond them as well. Means we can cut the factory of clouds. We stop with the factory of clouds within our mind. We don't have any more clouds. That's what we can actually develop and achieve in Buddhism. That's what the Buddha was talking about. He was realizing when he sat down to meditate and he said, it has to be away because it's not outside. The Buddha was a prince. And then he said, it cannot be. So it has to be inside. And then he started to look at his own mind and he started to say, oh, negative mind, that minds that are just conceptual and just like making the disturbance, believing, they are not true. They are not inherently with my own mind. So there's something underneath that is always there. A peace, calm, clear, like the sun. I always say that's what we are trying to look. We are trying to look for a place. And we are trying not to look, to recognize it's already there. Recognize that space within ourselves. And when I say space, don't think about like a room or a house or no. It's an inner space where whatever happens, you can come back to. Where actually it is already there. All of these clouds, they can only arise because there is underneath this sky-like mind. Or another way of saying can only have waves because there is a calm ocean under. That's what we have. That's what we can really, truly connect with. That's what peace, happiness actually means. Happiness means a non-changing of satisfaction, of love, compassion, kindness. Never goes away. Just there all the time. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine living in a mind state that doesn't go away? Wow. There's no ups and downs. We say ups and downs is part of life. Yes. Lama Yeshe used to say, it is part of a sick mind. Yeah. Then we are all sick. Yes. I said that I was not going to be diplomatic. So, yeah, we are. From Buddhist point of view, we are all sick. Why? Because we believe in these minds. We live attached like this, like we live like this with our negative minds. You know, a thought comes up, boom. We believe in the thought, we grasp to that thought as being true, and we act with our body, speech, and mind on that thought. Yeah, do you understand what I just said? Can you relate to what I just said? Can you relate? Give me an example. Give an example the last time you realized that you had a thought and you act on that. For example, I was there yesterday at the supermarket. I saw this and I was like, birthday, His Holiness. Let me go and buy it. So I bought. I believed that this was going to celebrate His Holiness. So I bought. Who else? Give me an example. Online people? Someone?
Yes, I love to give an example.
Yes, please.
So the other day I was working, okay, finishing my shift, and it was going so good. And then I thought coffee, and I couldn't get my mind out of the coffee. And what happened? What happened is that I lose control. I speak loud. I get the how does it say, the bad commentary, well, from my boss. And all of this happened only because I was only thinking about the coffee.
Yes. Perfect.
Attachment to the
I
coffee.
I like it.
Thank you. I hate it.
Yeah. This is a perfect example to show that we think we are under control of our mind and we have zero control. Of course, we have some sort of control, as I said. You know, you see someone, you get angry and you don't punch them in the face. You right? You don't kind of like maybe say a word, bit harder. But to be able, as Nana just described, to not drink, go and take the coffee, very hard. Not even think is the thought, just the thought. So hard. And we have that with every single thing in our lives. Every single area of our lives, we have what we call our beliefs, right? We think we are not with the, no, 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 I don't have these things, I don't have beliefs. I just go with the flow. Yeah, I love this. When we go to Copan, there's many people that are like, the new hippies. Yeah, in the 60s and 70s, there was the hippies that would come, to Copan, to Nepal, and to India looking for, well, I'm gonna make fun of Jackie now. They would come for spiritual progress and all of that, but I think it was because of marijuana. That's what they were doing, because of drugs. And then, and then, they all come and say, no, 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 I don't, this thing of control. No, no, I just go with the flow. You know, not even realizing that the flow is their own mind choosing, I want this, I don't want that, this, I don't want that. No control at all. We're totally, totally this dependent of our wishes and wants, our expectations, our, fears and our hopes. And all of these comes from attaching to thoughts. And these thoughts, because we don't have control, comes from our self-cherishing, from our egoistic point of view, because we only think about ourselves. So we go with the flow. Which flow? Whose flow? The self-cherishing mind flow. Good. Now we're talking about. Now we are saying, oh yes. And if we don't understand this, what we're just discussing now, we can never go away. We can never change. We can never transform. That is why we say in Buddhism that wisdom is so important. And wisdom is not just, like a go to university type of wisdom. That is very good, very important. We all need to study, use our intellect, our mind. Very important. But it's not that type of wisdom. It's a wisdom that goes a little bit deeper. It's a wisdom that we say there's three types. A wisdom that comes from understanding, from learning. That wisdom, yes, is very similar to learning how to be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever you studied in your university or school, maths. Yes, but then you have the wisdom of contemplation. That is very hard already, because normally we contemplate with me, myself, and I. So it's just my opinion, my vision, my way, my perception. That's why it's so hard for us to sometimes contemplate with others, because others come with a different point of view, right? That's why now it's so important that we take care of our mind, because we're going to discuss politics, economy, right? You're coming through a year of elections, becoming more and more and more. So how we can talk about election? Well, we understand our minds first, and we understand the minds of others, and we understand wisdom. So we need to understand, we need to learn, and we need to contemplate. And by contemplate, we're going to understand that others think differently than us. Thankfully, then we can learn something. Otherwise, how boring! It's very boring to be the known of all. Know it all. Yes. Thank you, dear. You know, the smart pants. Nobody wants to be close to someone that knows everything, right? It's just so boring. Okay, okay, okay. So, by contemplating, we see it from different points of view. Oh, yes, no, yeah, And that's why we need to study, because the more we study, the more information we have to use how to contemplate. And then after that, we can sit down and meditate. And meditation means familiarization. So we are familiarizing ourselves with a positive way of thinking, that we just by the study and the contemplation, we cut the wrong views, the negative views, and we came up with something positive. But now we need to familiarize ourselves with that. It's not that it's like, oh, I understand. 5 minutes later, you're back to your habits. So that's why people think that, enlightenment is just kind of like, yes. No, enlightenment, when you actually get enlightened, yes, you cut everything. But the process of getting enlightened it's a ongoing process. You understand something, but then you need to make it, how do you say, stable in your mind. It's like, oh yes, I go to one day of a French class, and then I think I know French. It's like this. That's how we are. We think like this. But we need to train, we need to do that. Same with meditation, same with any religious path, any spiritual path, not only Buddhism, everything. So that's why it's so important that we use these different types of wisdom to understand how our minds work, so we can let it go of our negativity, so we can let it go of our self cherishing. And then where self cherishing comes from? Ego. And what is ego? Very good. But what is ego? Selfishness. But what is, yeah, self-grasping is a good word, but what means self-grasping? And what is an inherently existing independent self?
Person who thinks they don't depend on others.
That is part of it, yes. But why do we think like that? Why? Huh? Habit. Definitely habit. Yes, habit is one way, but why? Why are we actually thinking all the time in ourselves? Why we wake up just thinking about us? Yes. That's the easy part. The easy part, the easy answer is karma. Because of karma. I love that. I love that and I don't get that because I don't like it because it's not true. It's not only because of karma, but why? Where is self-cherishing comes from?
It seems that way.
Yes. But why? Why there is cherishing of a self? Yes. In some ways it could be.
Leave or want it to be permanent.
Yes.
Existence.
That's it. I understand the permanence. Yes, definitely there's a point of that. But it's a little bit like a bit easier.
Because I'm the center of the universe.
You think it'll make us happy?
Yes, I like these. Let's go through these. You definitely think it's going to make you happy, but think it is the center of the universe. If there is a self, that means that there are others, right? That is also a good way to explore it. If there is a self, that means that there is others. Why? What are we different? How we are different?
Experiences.
Yes, definitely. But in what way are we actually different if we really look into it?
Separation.
It's an illusion of independency. For us to know what we are actually, when we talk about it in Buddhism, we're going to say we have a wrong view. We need to first understand this wrong view, right? So how is this wrong view? Someone is trying to talk, or it's just me? When we are kind of like talking about we have a wrong view of ourselves, that's where self-cherishing comes from a wrong view. How this wrong view happens? What is this wrong view?
From the born, our world is very small.
Yes.
Only on ourselves.
Only on ourselves when we are born. But then mom and dad are there normally. So it's actually, there is more people already, right? So that means that when we are born, if we really would understand a little bit, which we do, because we start to understand that, oh, if I cry, then there's a booby that comes and I can get fat, right? And if I cry in another way, I am all wet and all full of tin, then mom and dad will clean me. So we start to realize that we are a little bit more dependent than we think. But we don't see it like this. We see ourselves as a very independent way, right? But the problem is that we cling to this independence. We believe that this independence is reality because of fear, no, not only because of fear, but because we think we are permanent. We think we are very concrete in this way. That is very important to start understanding now. What is that we are actually clinging to? We are clinging to an idea of ourselves. The same way that, the thought comes, the thought of the balloon comes, and I act on this. A thought of me, of I comes, and I believe.
You really did that for yourself. You didn't do it for anyone else.
That's it. But that's me. I think me. And this me, the problem is not even buying the balloon. is that I bought the balloon believing that will bring happiness, right? And then there is a thought of me, of I am happy, I'm gonna do this. Then I start to create all of these problems, believing in this I being concrete, needing to be cherished. And I just start me, 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 me. I need to have this, I need to have that, I need to have this. But if I am gonna look for the I, where is it? Where is the I? There is an I, but where is it? Where is the I that I'm so cherishing so much? In the mind. Where? Show me. Where is it? If you think about it, in the mind. What do you mean by it is an illusion? What that means is an illusion.
In reality, it doesn't exist.
But doesn't exist, but I am sitting here. So what is this I that is sitting here? There is an I. There is an I that functions. There is an I that has a body, an I that has a mind. The problem is not the I. It's the wrong view, believing that the I exists from its own side, exists independently of the body and mind, almost as a third person, almost as something different than the body and the mind. But then we say no, because then we started to analyze. That's what we start to analyze. Where is the I? We start to check, oh, is the I here? But is the I is outside? We are like, no, 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 the I is not outside. It's easy to say that is not the I is not different from, the mind and the body. But then we start to understand and say, where is this then? Where is the I? The body is the I. If I chop my hand or my arm, that means I lost my I. So I cannot tell I go to the toilet anymore. No, I can't, right? So it's not the hand. Then if I lose all my limbs, then I'm still alive. I can say, I want to sleep. I want to eat. Yes. So where is the I? So if we're going to chop the entire human body into the smallest molecule, and then we're going to say, is that the I? Where is it? We're going to go to the how to say, the lab, and we're going to see it in the little microscope. Where's the I? Where is it? Is the brain? But then we cut the brain many pieces. No, the brain, every piece of the brain has a name. They are not called I.
So I think about this sometimes. So what if it's the collection of parts up until the moment where you can no longer function?
The collection of parts that can no longer.
So I would say, like, so let's say, for example, right?
Yes.
And this is the battle of happening.
No,
within,
we
right?
like
I'm
it.
meditating.
Yes.
So let's say, certain parts are removed. We go through this exercise, and then life ceases. Then that is no longer I, right? So you've removed enough parts so that it's no longer I.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you describe is a part of the I, but it's not the I itself.
Yeah.
So that's what, because I look at it as like there's the contrarian, right? When I'm meditating, and it's frustrating, right? But when I'm analyzing, there's the part of me that's going through the process, and then there's the contrarian who's saying, well, it's what if it is, those parts up to the point where you can know where it no longer functions, right? Where it dies. Because we could say, so you remove the arm,
but the I goes to another life as well.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cease to exist because we die.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right?
No, yeah, for sure. So then the I has left.
Right? So if it is not the body, then might be the mind or the mental continue, right? But if it is the mental continue, that means that then there is a mental continue, like a fixed thing that is there. But if we look at our mind and we try to also pinpoint, I can pinpoint and I say iPad, glass. But where is the I? Where is it?
Maybe it's a soul, like a spirit.
Like a spirit.
It's like a, when we leave this body, we enter the other body, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I is that we cannot see, but it's that something that holds the life. If we cut the
Something that
arm,
holds the
but
life.
our life is still there, we are still functioning. When we die, this spirit, soul, I don't know what name we can use, that enters another body, and then I goes there, maybe.
Ah, so the eye goes there where the
From one
soul
body
goes. So
to
there's
another
two
body.
things, the soul and the eye.
Eh?
So there is the soul and there is the eye, or they are the same thing?
Same thing. Those are the same thing.
Same thing. Okay, okay. So that means then, if this would be correct, that means that our mind would need to be also, a part of our mind would need to be stable or permanent, right? That means that it would be not changing, because there has to be something permanent that is there, which is the soul
Yeah.
that is going to another life.
Body. Yeah, another life, right?
Okay, okay, but so I asked you, I asked you guys earlier, it is like that? Do you wake up and you go to sleep in the same way? No. So how can we say that there is a part of the mind that is permanent if the rest is everything, all of our experiences are impermanent? What is an illusion?
There is no independent, inherently existent I.
So that's what we need to prove, right? Just saying that doesn't mean anything. We need to prove. So we need to prove with our own experience. So we need to prove that, wait a minute, the same way that our bodies are getting old, the time, and our minds are changing moment by moment, how can you have something permanent?
Each moment is dependent on the previous moment.
That's what we're gonna really have to look. Exactly like that. We then need to understand that if there is a permanence, that means that the next moment would need to be exactly the same as the previous moment, because we would have to have a permanence. Everything it would be, everything would need to be moment. The moment would never have to change, right? Because if there is something that is concrete, that means that it comes from one moment from the other. That means that it doesn't change, and it's not true. We are constantly changing, but that's not how we experience. We experience that we were us yesterday and we are us today. You understand what I mean? We believe, we experience concreteness, we experience permanence.
Can I say something? Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Does the I come from a mental image that you form yourself about the exterior? So like you think this mental image is permanent, but you think that it stays, but then you don't realize that it has changed over time. But in your mind, like for instance, your old friend who you really love and you haven't seen in years, you still think, oh, it's the same person, same like traits, he hasn't changed, and you have this kind of I, so the I and the others exist as concepts, but not as like...
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's exactly what it is. It's just a mental image, a thought, an illusion. Like the same way that we think, that buying the balloon is going to bring me lasting happiness, we think that the eye exists from its own side, exists permanently. We think that. That's how, and we can see it. We don't believe that this I can exist in a different way. We don't believe. We have the experience of it being the same one as yesterday. But shocking news, it's not. Why? Because you are not the same as yesterday. Every thing in you has changed. Not only your body, but your mind. One moment is not the same as the other. Conditions are different. So we are constant change, influx of change. There is in the Dhammapada, there's the writings of the Buddha, there is a phrase that I really like. It's bare phenomena rolling on. It's just cause and effect. Our bodies and our mind. There's no concrete I existing from its own side. Why? Because if there was a concrete I, then we would have to be the same as yesterday, the same today, the same tomorrow. We would not be able to change. And all of you here would be able to have to see me, Calden, exactly the same. And thankfully, you guys don't. Because most of you don't like me, maybe someone likes. You understand? If I was a permanent thing, if I was permanent, that means I was existing from my own side. If the I existed from its own side, that means it would have to have certain characteristics that never change. And it's not like that because we have a different experience. All of us have different experiences. And it's the same as I always try to give the example of the flower. The I and the flower exist in the same way. That means don't exist permanently. Because if there is a permanent flower here, it means that all of us would need to see it as an inherently flower. That means the flower will never be able to die, they will never be able to change, and we would never be able to see it and how do you say it, projected anything in it. That means if it is a beautiful, inherently beautiful flower, everybody needs to see it as beautiful. But let's face it, some of you here would need to say, maybe it's not that beautiful. It's actually a bit dry, it's dying, and look at this, it's not good. Right? Makes sense what I'm saying? And you had a question?
So the I
Yes.
is just really a label.
Yes. That is exactly what it is. It's just a label that we put on our body and our mind. We need to call it something, right? And I, as the definition, a definition of the I is that is on the definition that we say is that on the body of the mind is the merely label on the body and the mind. That creates I, that creates a person. What is a person? A body and a mind. A body and a mind that are in constant change, right? But I need to give these a name. And the label we decide, it's I. But it could be Kaka, maybe, same. It's just a label, right? But it is a label with a function. So it functions. So I can only say a person because if I look at a dog has a body and a mind, but it's not a body and a mind of a human body and a mind. So there is a specific way that I can say, this is. And I cannot say when she is going to sit down and then she says, I sit down, talking about her. No, because the I is relation to the body and the mind, my body and my mind, right? So that is what is very important. But then we start to understand that this body and this mind, if they are in constant shift, in constant change, why am I grasping so much to this permanent I and trying to cherish and trying to control and trying to get whatever it has and wants?
I think because we don't want to die because maybe we're afraid. I'm afraid of dying.
Mhm.
Dying maybe because I remember some, I don't remember them directly, but I suspect we all had some very bad lives in the past.
Definitely, fear comes from holding to a self-existing I, coming from idea of the soul. In Buddhism, we don't have that. We don't have that idea. If we understand that, that's why it's very important what we discussed at the beginning. If we understand that we are not inherently existing and we are ever always changing, and we understand that whatever we put in our mind creates our actions of body, our experience of mind, our actions of body, and our actions of speech, and whatever we create with our body and speech and our mind create habitual tendencies in our mind, that means that we need to be very careful with what we think. So we can be very careful with what we do with our body and our speech. So understanding the emptiness of the inherently, of the concrete I, meaning seeing that the I is not as concrete as it appears, give us the freedom to say, I have control. I don't need to continue being a slave of my negative tendencies. Do you understand? Like, it's just the habitual patterns that I have used coming from a wrong view. So if I cut the wrong view, I cut all of it. Make sense? Yes. Yes. I like the face already. Exactly. Very good.
So, can we say I means
Just a
label
second.
that we create about mind and body?
Just a second, because there's someone here on the center speaking. I'll go back to what is your name?
My name is Hiral. I'm just trying to understand because I'm also taking a note actually, so I can remember, right? So, can we say that I means the label that we create between mind and body?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay,
It's
so
a
I'm
it's a
writing that
merely
down.
label. It's a merely label I. It's the I that is labeled on top of the body of the mind.
Okay.
And the body of the mind are changing all the time. If they're changing all the time, that means that there's no I that can be fixed. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If everything is changing all the time, so the label continues the same, but it's just a label. It's not, it doesn't make it concrete appear. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So now there's someone here that's at the center who's going to make a question.
So,
Yes.
is mind then having a dream that this is real?
It's a very good way to put it. Yes, that's what Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa used to say. What we are experiencing here is all a hallucination, right? Why? Because it's coming from a wrong view, a wrong way of experiencing things. We experience based on this idea that we are something concrete, something permanent, something independent, right? Almost that, that's why fear happens. Because we don't see this as a dream, as a completely as a invention of the mind, a projection of the mind. You understand? And then because we don't see that, then we have fear of death. That's why we say in many of the beautiful texts about emptiness, about understanding the I, that there is no death, no birth. Because actually, it's just a phenomena coming in and out. But because the phenomena is coming in and out, changing, we have freedom. Because if things were permanent, they can never be changed. So thankfully, what we call dependent arising or cause and effect, because things are causal, that means that if they have a cause, they have a result, that means that they can be changed. That means if I plant a seed, orange seed, I can have an orange tree. Otherwise, if the seed was concrete, permanent, I would just put the seed and the seed is going to stay a seed forever. So if our minds were concrete in the way that we experience it, that means we would not have a yo-yo mind. We would not have the roller coaster. But the problem is that the roller coaster only exists because we believe we have a concrete thing, a concrete self. That is very important. Because then understanding this, understanding what actually happens in our mind, how we actually functions, creates freedom. We are free from ourselves, our deluded minds, our minds that make confusion and concrete and attach, and everything that comes from the sufferings that we have come from that mind. So what we call that is ignorance. Ignorance on how we exist. And this ignorance creates self-grasping. Grasping at a self that is not there. And then self-grasping, once it believes in that, yes, I am here, I exist. Then I am the center of the universe, as Jack said. And then, if I'm the center of the universe, there is me, there's others. And I am gonna take care of it, and I'm gonna get everything for myself. And as long as I have everything, and I have the best car, the best this, the best that, the best this, blah 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 blah, I'm gonna be happy, and I don't care about others. And what happens is that when we do that, we suffer much more. Why? Because it's not based in reality. Because actually we are dependent on each other. And we are dependent on each other for being happy. So everything that we have, everything that we want, all the food, all of the gadgets, all of the clothes, all of the things, even our bodies is dependent on others. So we are totally independent. Totally interdependent. Sorry, interdependent. Sorry, interdependent. You understand? We're totally interdependent. So that is very special, that because of this interdependency, that means that we can not only help ourselves, but we can help others. So our hearts, happiness and meaningful for this life only comes when we open our hearts to help others. When we think by understanding our own existence of being totally dependent on the causes and conditions and totally dependent on our minds, and our minds being completely controlled of a wrong view, we say, I need to change that. And I need to change not only for me, but because everybody else is doing the same. Then real compassion comes. Real compassion comes from understanding the suffering and where the causes of the suffering are. The cause of the suffering is not because we are sick, it's not because of wars, it's not because of that. The causes of suffering is because of the wrong view that creates all of this. All of the problems that we have in the world right now comes from this wrong view. That comes from the that creates the self-cherishing. And the self-cherishing creates the selfish actions, attachment. What is a war besides attachment? My country, my this, my religion. Wrong views. That's why and you really start to understand that, only compassion arises. Only compassion. Only the wish to achieve that state of no more suffering, of no more ignorance. No, I don't want this anymore. When you start to see your own mind and you start to see that you have no control, that you're totally, coming from the confusion of your minds and thinking about this and thinking about that, and then you see yourself as a slave, right, of your minds. Just thinking about all the time, every single day, oh, how I can do this, how I can get that, how I can get more this, people can say that I am special, that I am this, I am that. Very tiring. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. And the more we think about that, less we think about others, which is what is going to bring us happiness. Because then life has meaning, life has purpose. When we put our body, speech, and mind in service of helping others to realize this. And we as well. Because we can see the more we let it go of that so concrete I, and as Claudia said, you know, that image we have of ourselves, we can start very kind of like in a gross way. We can just think about, how do I think I should be? Oh, I should be like this because I'm a, you know, man, I'm a woman, I'm a this, I'm that, I'm that. And then we start, you know, even putting our colors. I am this color, so I should act like this. I am this age, I should be act like this. I'm this sex, I should be act like this. I'm should completely already start to create a very concrete, and I should be like this, I shouldn't be like that. It's a prison. It's a mind prison we created for ourselves. And then we act on this mind prison and we create suffering for ourselves and others. Wow.
Can I ask another question, please?
Yeah.
So, from what I understood, is that all phenomena are impermanent and that the self is in relation to causes and conditions, essentially, right? So my question is, like, we talk a lot about Buddha nature and about enlightenment. So the way we are talking about it is like if it was permanent, like if it was inherently existent, but then what you're explaining is that like everything is impermanent. So that does mean that Buddha nature is as well impermanent and that it doesn't exist if we don't believe in it.
Very good, very good. So everything is cause and conditions, dependent arising. So there's no escaping from that, right? But that doesn't mean that things are like, if you create the causes for something to exist, it will exist. But in case of enlightenment, if we cut the causes of suffering, that means that they won't grow back again. It's also cause and effect. But it's just that if I don't plant the seeds to have a flower, I don't have a flower. But in this case, if I don't plant the seed of negative emotions, of anger, of attachment, then they don't grow. Then they don't grow. And what is the seed of anger, attachment? Self-cherishing and self-grasping. So if I cut that, they don't grow. You understand? So yes, the experience of not kind of like them growing, that means when we don't have anymore the causes for them to grow, we could say it is a permanent experiences. Yes, in this case, it looks like that, but it's cause and effect. You understand? It is still cause and effect, but that means that if I cut the causes, causes for them to never, ever grow again, they don't grow again. But it's still cause and effect. And then not only this, but because we cut it at the self-cherishing, that means that I don't have any more that contaminated qualities of love and kindness and compassion, which is because there's no me, this sense of inherently me. There is a me that is cause and conditions that can love everybody. So then the conditions, the cause and conditions for me to love, to have compassion, to have kindness unconditionally and unlimited, it's created. You understand? Makes sense? That is very important. Because it is. Once I cut what is holding me back from that, that means that it's just flowing. And there's no more me and you. We are exactly the same in wanting happiness and not suffering. So if I love myself, I will love you because you're the same. So I will do everything that I can to help you. That's what a Buddha is. That's what enlightenment, Buddhahood means. By understanding the wrong views, we cut the causes for our own suffering, which is the cause of all sentient beings suffering. The inherently I, the wrong view, how things exist. And not only this, but that creates then the possibility of the development of our good qualities in an unlimited and unconditional way. So the Buddha is both. Sangye in Tibetan. San means totally purified, totally eliminated the negativities, the causes of suffering, the inherently existing I. Right? Cut. Therefore, they don't come anymore. There's no more self-grasping. There's no more fear. There's no more, attachment. There's no more anger. There's no more that. Nothing. But not only this, Ye means perfected. Means that then my mind has only space for love, compassion, kindness, generosity, patience. Because there's nothing else that is blocking or holding me back to, like an ocean, to be the ocean, to be love, to be kindness. That is a Buddha. And we all can become a Buddha. We all have the potential right here and right now within ourselves.
May I ask a question?
Yes, last question.
Last question. Thank you. So now that we understand, thank you for your, generosity in the knowledge, and teaching. So now that we understand what is ego, what is I, right?
Mm.
Now that we understand, now the question is, and this ego thing is, it's been built. I'm a 40-year-old man, so we've been thinking about, we've been producing about 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and probably 70 to 80% thoughts maybe about ego, I, self-center, self-importance,
Yes.
self-grasping, right? So the mind has been doing this for over like 40 years. But now the question is, what can we do, right? To,
Yes.
to reduce, maybe not completely eliminate to begin with, but maybe to reduce and start having less egoistic thoughts and things like that. Is the answer self-awareness?
How old you said you have?
40.
Yeah, so we say in Buddhism that after 40 there's no possible anymore. It's gone. It's already gone now. It's
It's too late. Yeah.
not possible. Now, now it's already gone. Now 40 years already doing that, then very complicated.
Right. So the point I wanted to make was this, that because we are having
I
this
understand.
habit of
I understand.
having the self-centered thoughts, right? What can
Yes.
we do? Like, what should be the mechanism or
Yes.
tool, right?
So I'm gonna do, because that what you're asking me is the entire path to enlightenment. What you're asking me is like, you're asking me what, so how do I do that? But I'm gonna give you two things that are very, very easy, but the most important, which is actually the only thing you need to do. You need the two wings of the bird in order to do what you are saying, which is what we say that it is to achieve enlightenment, to achieve Buddhahood, to be free from the suffering and the development, and to develop our qualities. We need wisdom, which is what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
We need to inquire, analyze, ask ourselves, wait a minute, am I here creating a more me? You understand? You ask yourself, you become aware, because awareness by
Yeah,
itself is not enough. Awareness is very important because allow us to realize our intention behind. You really show us what we are doing. Oh, look at me doing this. Look at me believing that buying this is gonna make people happy. You understand? So it's that is what you mean. That's what you need to understand. So once you understand that, you use wisdom to counteract that wrong feel.
Right.
That is very important. Wisdom is very important. And wisdom then has the three types of wisdom that I said before. The wisdom of learning, contemplating, and meditating. Okay? So that means that I'm gonna sell here. That means you need to come to all our teachings here at the center.
100%. So
So
two
this
things
is the
I
first one. And then the second one, the second wing is the method. And the method means bodhicitta. What is bodhicitta? Bodhicitta is you become a Buddha if you have bodhicitta. Why? Because bodhicitta is the wish to achieve enlightenment so you can help others. And you only develop your qualities. So the gay part of the Buddha, of Sangye, remember I said Sangye. Gye, which means the development of the qualities, only exists if you have bodhicitta, the wish to help others. Otherwise, you only have Sang. That means you only have liberation. You only want to be free from the suffering, and that's it. And I don't want to get bothered by anyone. Let me just enjoy the bliss here, right? So you need bodhicitta. Bodhicitta creates Buddha, and bodhicitta comes from where? From bodhisattva. What means bodhisattva? Means that person that has the wish to help others and to do something about that. And that comes from what? From compassion. Compassion, great compassion. Great compassion is the wish for others not to be suffering. And not only that, but do something about it, right? So compassion is the way. So compassion will directly counteract the self-cherishing mind. It will go against. So every time that you are for 40 years, many years, 40 years habituating yourself with only thinking about yourself, when you use compassion as, wait a minute, let me think about others here. Let me see how I can include others, how I can slightly, slowly, step by step, let it go of just me, and think about others. That
correct.
is how, right? So
Yes.
that's what you do. So then you meditate on compassion, on kindness, on patience. You use all of these antidotes, as we say, against our
Yes.
habitual tendencies of selfishness and negativity and attachment and anger. So this is what we mainly talk about in the classes, right?
Mhm.
And the wisdom part. So with these two things, you go wisdom and compassion, or emptiness and bodhicitta. You go just seeing reality, seeing how things exist. And then because you see how things exist, it's easier to develop compassion, right? And the more you develop compassion, the less the I becomes strong. So the easier it is to see it's not that concrete. So they go helping each other, right? Until you realize both. And then you are free from all of the sufferings. Okay? In a
Thank you so much.
very, very short nutshell. Okay, so then now that we had this very, 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 very nice chat, well, at least for me, I don't know for you, but I like.
We
As I
appreciate.
am very selfish, I'm very selfish. I like it at least. So we're just gonna what we do every time that we finish any activity, and especially such a positive activity that we've done right now, we dedicate. We use all of this energy, all of this positivity, that we created not only individually but as a group here online and people here together. We dedicate. So that means that we offer. We kind of like we give a direction for this positive energy. And this it has to be, because we just understood, for our own enlightenment, so we can help others to get enlightened as well. So that it has to be for that. Everything that we do needs to be for us creating that attitude of wanting to be free from our suffering, son, and be completely full of our qualities so we can help others to achieve the same. That's what we want. And if we all do that, then there's no need to worry about wars, about natural disasters, about any different difficulties, because the world will be a more peaceful, kind, loving place. So that when we are working on ourselves, when we are working on our minds, when we are decreasing our self-cherishing, decrease our self-grasping, we are contributing for a more kind and loving world, right? So that is what we're dedicating for. We're dedicating this way. We dedicate with this wish to really have all of these incredible conditions to achieve this enlightened state very soon, very, very soon. And for all sentient beings to achieve the same. So this is very important. So we're going to do some dedication prayers. I think she has already over there. Let me check. 235. Very good. So 235. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra to realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtues as the dedication praises the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so I might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect pure Losandrapa to shine forever. Now we're going to do, which one we do? Shantideva, 246? 246? Yes. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness. May living creatures suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May all none be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil, tears finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the weak find food. May the thirst find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And we always finish with the long life prayers for our teachers by understanding cause and effect, understanding that we would never be here if it was not for the kindness of our teachers. And especially we do the dedication for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Yesterday, you know, he completed 89 years old, and he's a beacon of light and hope and harmony for this world. So he embodied the teachings of the Buddha, making us, which are not very, we don't trust so much, that we have the potential to help others, just like His Holiness, to even lose his own country because he didn't want to kill any Chinese or go into any battle. That is very special. So we are very fortunate to have someone like that in the world. So we pray for his long life. In the 244, in the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And as this center is a center that was started by Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, well, it's part of the organization that they started. Actually, Jackie started the center, but due to the kindness of Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe, and as Rinpoche passed away last year, as we believe in reincarnation, we believe that due to the power of his wish to continue helping us, he's going to come back and guide us, as a little kid. So we're going to have to keep our good work for a couple of years more until we can receive teachings from Rinpoche again. But we request him to come back. So we do what we call the swift return prayers. Fearless teacher and assembly of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Prateka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you are the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While strive single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious one, may the smile of her incarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So thank you very, very much. I'm so sorry that I talked a lot of blah, 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 so we went out of time. You that know me, that's a bit of a habit that I have. And you're all invited to stay because we're going to have a potluck lunch. You're always welcome. If you didn't bring anything, you cannot stay. No, I'm not okay. Please. Exactly. There's a lot of food. So all of you online, thank you so much. I hope that you guys
Thank
can
you,
join
Venerable.
us
It was a
another
wonderful
day.
teaching.
Thank you
Thank
very
so
much.
Thank you very
Have
much,
a
Venerable.
wonderful
Thank you,
Sunday
everyone.
and see you during the week in one of our classes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
So